So hello everyone, dear Global Tech friends. Today I'm going to make a slightly different video because I want to talk to you about the why, but this time from a very current angle, namely the Corona crisis, because the consequences of this crisis will be felt by all of us for a very long time. And it's therefore interesting to look at Global Tech from this point of view. Global Tech is a company that can handle many future challenges, and it's important that you realize this as well. Because the real problem is not Corona. In the media, this all seems to be the case now, but in reality, the number of infections will decrease after some time. Maybe another month or 2 or 3, but sooner or later they will decrease. And then the real problem will start, because the real problem is the economic impact of the measures now being taken. People are already talking about a recession when the economy goes down with 2% per year. But what happens if you completely shut down the entire economy for 3 months? That's a quarter of the year. So then we are talking about 25% decline of the economy. Not all activity has stopped, of course, but a lot. And after that period, it will also take a while before everything works properly again. So even if we still reach that point. So a 20 to 25% decline in the economy is all realistic, but it's worse than 2008. It's worse than World War II. It's worse than the Great Depression in the 1930s. And it will happen in less than 3 months. As far as we remember, 2008 was the worst crisis we ever experienced. But 2008 was mainly a financial crisis. It took place in the financial system. The problem was mainly with the banks, which lacked liquidity to keep the financial sector running. So it was a liquidity crisis. In 2020, all sectors of the economy will be affected. This crisis is not only felt in Wall Street, but only in Main Street. Not only the bankers, but also people, just ordinary people like you and I, will feel the consequences. Most self-employed people and small business owners don't have the reserves to survive 3 months without income. The result will be a wave of bankruptcies, and millions of people in the US and Europe will lose their jobs. That impact will be far greater than the virus itself. In 2008, central banks pumped up the financial system by injecting money on a massive scale. It didn't solve the debt problem. It didn't solve the underlying problem. They just kicked the can down the road. They gained some time. And meanwhile, the bubble was already being blown up again. And in 2000, people talked about the dot-com bubble. In 2008, people talked about the housing bubble. But now we're in the everything bubble. Shares, bonds, real estate, art, everything is overvalued. And what few people know is that the central banks have been massively intervening in the financial system since September 2019, long before the virus was ever known. So the problem was already there. The virus just accelerated it, but didn't cause it. After the economy was artificially inflated for 12 years, Corona is now the pin that burst the bubble. Everyone is now looking at the pin as the culprit, but the problem is the bubble. It's not the pin. On this chart, you can see that there has been not a single decade since the late 18th century without at least one recession. Not except the last one, the last decennium or decade has been without any recession. So a recession is sometimes healthy. And the longer there is no recession, the deeper the recession that will follow. On this chart, you see that the stock market has seen its fastest decline ever since its peak. And this is about the first 10% drop after the peak. So sometimes it took more than 100 days, even 180 days. In 2020, It took only 6 days. It has never been so fast. And on this chart, you see this again. The blue box indicates the bull market in which we have been since 2009. But we see a dramatic drop. It goes so fast, and you can bet that there is a lot of panic behind the scenes. In a broader perspective, we see that there is still a lot of room for further decline. This is just the beginning. If you see where the peak was in 2008, then we are still far above that. We can still drop considerably. So how far can we go down? 30%, 40%, 60%? Well, in the 1930s, the stock market dropped as much as 90% since the top in 1929. And I have the feeling that this may be worse than the 1930s. So we still have a long way to go. A drop of 90% cannot be ruled out. And then I only talk about the stock market. But the bond market will also decline. Real estate can go down with 50, 60%. These are all realistic scenarios. This chart shows the VIX index. The VIX index reflects the volatility in the stock market. And this is also sometimes referred to as the fear barometer. And you can see that volatility was very low throughout 2019, but suddenly it skyrockets. Investor fear is very high, and it's going to stay high for some time. Not only the stock markets are dropping, here you can see a drop in oil price. It falls off a cliff, literally. In addition to the fact that Corona has the entire world in its grip, there is also a fierce battle going on between oil-producing countries. And oil is still the most important commodity in the world. So the massive drop in price shows that demand is quickly drying up. Of course, when everybody has to stay at home, nobody can drive around in his car, so a lot less fuel is being used. So we can conclude by saying that Corona has done more for the environment or the climate than Greta. And this is also a very interesting chart. Here you can see the number of CEOs leaving their company. This is about the largest listed company, the largest companies listed on the stock exchange. So there are always CEOs who leave for other companies or because they retire. However, the recent increase is very striking. Perhaps they filled their pockets in the recent years and they are now jumping off the Titanic. CEOs are also massively selling their own company shares. And these people obviously know more about internal workings of the company than the general public. So this indicator shows that something very bad is about to happen in a lot of companies. And the biggest companies in the world, for that matter. Everyone knows that China is the world's factory. So this chart shows industrial production in China. It plummets, it falls off a cliff, just like the oil price. The drop is huge if you compare it to other recessions. So now people are slowly returning to work in China, but they still can't produce because the largest customers in the US and in Europe, now they are in lockdown. So yeah, how can you produce if you can't transport your goods to your clients because the clients are closed? So as a result, industrial production has dropped enormously also worldwide. Here too, on this chart, you can see the curve going down at a rapid speed. So there hasn't been any recession in the past so sharp and so deep, but you don't hear this in the media. They're only talking about the virus. However, this, my dear friends, what you're looking at right now, this is the real problem. There are thousands of sick people, but there are millions of people out of work. So the economic damage is 1,000 times greater than the medical damage. And how do central banks respond? How do they deal with it? They use the same recipes as in 2008, because that's all they know. Interest rates has already been reduced to 0%. A lot of money is being pumped into the financial markets. The only consequence is that they are inflating the bubble again, while it should actually empty completely first, this bubble. So printing money on such a massive scale is the largest monetary experiment the world has ever seen. But as I said earlier, this crisis is not a financial crisis, it's an economic crisis. Creating money out of thin air and flooding the financial markets with money is not a solution for millions of people who are under house arrest. It didn't help in 2008, and now they're going to do it again. Only this time with much larger amounts. They're juggling with numbers that makes your head spin. Trillions are the new billions. And they're also talking about helicopter money. The newest term is gaining popularity among politicians. Give every citizen a check so that they can consume. You know, everybody knows that I'm a big believer in universal basic income, but helicopter money is not universal basic income. Helicopter money is paid for with freshly printed money created out of thin air. Perhaps this may help ease the pain for some people in the short term, but it's certainly not a sensible long-term policy. Universal basic income is a good way to organize a social system. Helicopter money is a monetary policy that will do more harm than good in the long run. So what awaits us? The economy is coming to a complete standstill. Many companies don't have enough reserves and will go bankrupt. Unemployment will rise enormously. Creditors won't be able to service their debts. This will, again, endanger the banks. This will be 100 times worse than Lehman Brothers. The next bank that fails won't be saved by the taxpayers. It will be the savers whose accounts will be confiscated, and they will get shares from the bank in exchange. This is called a bail-in instead of the bailouts that we've seen in 2008. And you can also expect sharp capital restrictions on the banks. During the Euro crisis, people in Greece and Cyprus were only allowed to withdraw 60 euros a day for from their bank accounts. If banks fail in the rest of Europe now, we will have exactly the same scenario. The problem is that no one knows which bank will fall first. So no one is really safe, not even in the biggest bank or the largest banks. I would even say, especially not in the largest international banks. Initially, I expect deflation. Bankruptcies lead to unpaid loans. Unpaid loans will lead to failing banks. And also bankruptcies will lead to large stocks that need to be liquidated. So the price will drop dramatically. Not only the price of goods and services, but also the price of shares, real estate, and everything. So this is deflation. For one sector, for instance, the tourism, it would not restart by itself. You know, even after we end the lockdown, a lot of people will be scared to sit in an airplane with 300 other people. We have been indoctrinated with fear for months now, and so we can expect great offers in the coming months, because they want to fill their planes and they want to fill their hotels, and they won't be able to. So for those who still have an income by then, we can make great deals. Those who don't have an income anymore, yeah, they wouldn't go on a holiday anyway, probably. After a period of deflation, excuse me, after the first period of deflation, inflation is to be expected. And inflation is actually inflating the money supply, because there is more money in circulation without more goods and services being produced. And that is real inflation, because the money is worth less. So most people think that inflation means increase in prices, but actually that's not correct. Price increase are the result of inflation. And prices aren't rising yet, but central banks are now already inflating the money supply in the economy. And there is a risk that they will go far in this because they are already printing new money while prices are going down. So there is a risk that they will go too far in this and that they will even create a hyperinflation in a few years. And you have to know, inflation is like toothpaste. Once out of the tube, you can't get it back in. The central banks play a very dangerous game, and they are playing it with the purchasing power of your savings. This policy has already led to much misery in the past. Some individual countries have suffered hyperinflation, like Germany in the 20s, and also more recently Zimbabwe, Venezuela, etc. The only difference now is that the same policy is being applied on a global scale. All the central banks are doing it. So not just one country, it's the entire world. And this diabolic game can only last until only one possibility remains, and that's going to be a complete monetary reset. I don't see this happening in the short term, but if all scenarios play out as can be foreseen now, it will happen in 10 to 12 years. Until then, the value of your money, your hard-earned money, will be eroded, completely eroded. So monetary resets. We've been living under the dollar standard since the 1970s, and the US dollar is a reserve currency of the rest of the world. And sooner or later, they will have to replace the dollar by, something else. And what is this something else? There are several options what that could be, but nobody can give a sensible answer to that right now. I think we still have at least a decade before this will happen. But what is almost certain is that in the short term, we're going to switch to a cashless society, because cash is now suddenly seen as dirty. It's a carrier of the virus. And I can tell you, I've been in Africa more than once, and I had cash in my hands that was looking very, very dirty. And it didn't make me sick. And it was gross, but it didn't make me sick. But now, of course, they are scaring people by discrediting cash money. So Big Brother will intervene. They're already intervening right now. They are watching you if you leave your house or not, if you stay at home like a good citizen or not. So our freedoms will be taken away. And the thing is that we will all applaud the loss of our freedoms, as it will be promoted for the sake of our security. So why global tech, and why exactly now? In 2019, we have developed our own ecosystem. We opted for crypto, and we created not one, but two crypto tokens. GT Plus, our internal currency, and Fortuna is a crypto alternative for your savings. As a global tech affiliate, you will always earn money, and you can earn as much as you want. You can protect your savings from the financial meltdown that is now coming. You can build extra assets yourself, which will give you even more income. And as a community, as a movement, we can survive this, we can overcome this together. Global tech is not in debt. We don't have any debts. We are making a profit. We have almost no business with the banks, and certainly not with European banks. Right now, we are even very happy that the banks have denounced it at the time, because it forced us to find an alternative, and this alternative protects us and you from the storm. Just when countries are locked down, millions of people lose their job, the economy comes to a complete halt, just then our X factor is 200%, and it can stay there for a while. We are making more sales than ever. We are paying out more commission than ever. More and more companies will also want to join our community. More and more companies will also want to use our ecosystem, because they know that they can still do business there, because there is still growth. We are signing up new people every day. So the GT Plus will get more applications, Fortuna as well, and more news about this in the upcoming future updates. So what can you do? Protect your assets, protect your savings. Fortuna and Fortuna Master are two products that can do this. You don't need any qualifications to take advantage of this. Build an alternative income for yourself. You can do this by buying products for yourself, various products. It's also possible by inviting other people into our community, and you will be richly awarded for this with team commissions. So protect your family, protect your friends, your colleagues. Many of the people you know will lose their jobs in the coming months and years. So you can already show them the way to an alternative, and they will thank you. They will be forever in your debt. Let's think back to the cash flow quadrant. This crisis will be felt in all quadrants, but the left-hand side will feel it much worse than the right side. You can do something on the right side. You will find some protection there. And Global Tech offers a real alternative on the right. Global Tech has grown into a group of companies with various products in various sectors. Each company has its own business model. You can take advantage of this by building assets and income in different ways. Global Tech also has a social dimension. We will continue to support basic income and the project in Congo, but this is a real basic income. It's not helicopter money. And everyone must stay at home. And now they have a lot of time because they're sitting at home doing nothing. And that's why the Academy has launched a webinar campaign. So check the agenda of the Life Balance Academy and follow the webinars. Invite people. They have nothing else to do. So that way everyone can find out all aspects of this journey towards financial freedom. And let us build the company and the community further, especially now, people, especially now. Make the community bigger, make it stronger, be proud of what we have achieved and also on what we will still achieve in the future. Invite others, show them how they can also safeguard and protect their family, protect their savings and their income. The economic collapse is coming. That is now certain. It's not a problem for Global Tech. This is an opportunity. Anyone who has heard me speak in recent years knows that I have long announced what is happening now. Something would happen that would burst the bubble, and it would cause the greatest economic crisis we will ever experience in our lifetime. So no one could predict what would be the trigger. Now it appears to be a virus, a pandemic, but it's not important exactly what the reason is. The pin is not the problem, and whether the pin is a virus or a pandemic or some other reason that initiates the economic crisis, that's not important. But the point is, it is happening now. So the point is that we prepare ourselves. In recent years, we have transformed our concept to a cast iron entity. We have received a lot of criticism, especially from people who don't understand or who didn't want to understand. But perhaps now you see what our concept can really mean for you, a safe haven in the storm. What is happening now, for us, it's not a problem, it's a great opportunity. These people, right now, this is our time. So why Global Tech? Again, to protect yourself against economic crisis, against the banking system, and against unemployment, and to achieve financial freedom, to build your income, to protect your savings in an alternative way, outside of the traditional system, which now is at its limits. And also because we have a heart for other people, a heart for others, not only with our charity, but also by inviting others in our community. This is your damn duty. The more people we can save from disaster, the better. So remember, you haven't seen anything yet. All has yet to start, but the first signs are there, and they are terribly bad. At the same time, we are, as a community, we are stronger than ever. We achieve record sales. We pay out record high commissions. This is not a coincidence, people. This is what we have prepared for. This is the moment of truth. This is our moment. So, why global tech? Exactly because of what is happening now. That's why, and that's why we have to do it now. Thank you for your attention.